We in the last class we discussed about the main economic, macroeconomy, monetary policy, the financial systems, and all other. So today we try to understand little bit of SME market, right? And SME market and its implication to economy and all other. So with that 4 sessions, we will finish the first module, right? So then afterwards, then there will be more into the credit appraisal, credit evaluation, and all other. So Menaka and all other team will do that with another lecturer. And then I will most probably come after around 1 month again to discuss about the financials analysis. I mean, most of you know that, but more to refresh of financial analysis, ratio analysis, and then of course risk management, right? So this is what I will do. All right. So then we will try to understand SME and SME sort of a market, right? Sorry. SME market. Now, before we start off SME market, can any one of you tell me before SME, like how you, I mean, some of you might have work on that, how you define microfinance as? What is the definition of microfinance? Can any one of you tell? Before we go to SME, microfinance. What is microfinance means? Some of the senior bankers. What the microfinance mean karani? What is microfinance? Mr. Asanga? Samir? What is microfinance? How you define microfinance as? Anybody else?
Business which turnover below 50 million per annum. Small scale business.
Okay. So the 50 no, that is basically 50 million. No, that is not microfinance. That is you know, how you, I mean, that could be a small entity or small business. But when it's come to microfinance, how you define? So what microfinance, if you really want to understand, I mean, I want to, you know, to build up this whole landscape. So that's what I'm trying to tell. So microfinance, the definition is microfinance is provision of financial services to low income population who has restricted access to formal finance system. Please write this. Microfinance is a provision of financial services to low income population who are having restricted access to formal financial system. This is what microfinance means. Right, here when it's come to financial services, you have to understand there are a number of financial services, right? So number one, loans and advances. Loans and advances. Number two, savings. Number three, insurance. and 4, fund transfers, and 5, advisory. What do you mean by advisory? What do you mean by advisory? Advisory services, Abhi, how the Mr. Chalit? What is advisory means what?
Giving specialized instructions.
Yeah, financial advisory means what?
Giving special
guidance of doing businesses.
What is that?
Guidance for doing businesses in a better financial way.
Yeah, so advisory is that giving advisors and giving some tax and the banking and giving tax advisories now, like you know, when it's come to you also to you know, giving banking. So one of the very important thing is that in future also, now in Sri Lanka, unfortunately, that market is not very strong, but giving advisory services to the business is also very important, like how, you know, how you manage your cash flows, or how you optimize your working capital and all of that, which we will learn in our financial analysis part a little bit more. And then of course some of you, of course, being experienced bankers, you would know, right? So what I wanted to tell is this is what we call the financial services. So what I wanted to tell, when it comes to microfinance, the main theme, I mean, I know this is the SME class, but I'm trying to understand on the other side of this. Main theme is finance. The microfinance, the main theme is the concept of inclusion. So don't miss this point. Microfinance, the main concept is not giving loans or whatever. It is by providing these financial services, people who are restricted from the access to restricted from the formal financial systems, that they are giving that we facilitate them and get more they're included to the formal financial system. So that is what microfinance is all about, right? So please make a strong note on that. This is microfinance. So here that you heard a very important word, low income population. How you define low income population, or what is the sort of what is the definition of low income population? What is low income population? What does it mean? What is the sort of, what's your understanding of low income population? So to understand low income population, you have to understand how the social pyramid or social if you stratas happen. So that means if you try to stratify the people based on their income or level of income, you can identify few layers. Now please tell me who are in the bottom of this pyramid in terms of income. Income stratification. Who are the bottom of the pyramid? Pyramid එක යටම ඉන්න කට්ටියට අපි මොකක්ද කියන්නේ? I would like some active interaction, maybe from whom? Anjana, Mr. Anjana, you are saying what is who's in the bottom of the pyramid? What we call them?
Non-income generator.
What is that?
No ideas actually. Non-income generator.
Yeah, non-income, but What we call? So normally we call them, I mean, it's a very, understand, we call them beggars. Beggars are the bottom of the pyramid. I am not talking about the beggars who are doing business, but in real context, beggars. So the definition of beggar in socio-economic point of view is that any person or a group of person who are having the issues of acquiring three basic human needs. What are the basic human needs? What are the shelter, food, and clothes. Right? So if anybody who's having issues with acquiring all three or at least few, that we call or we consider them as sort of a beggars. So after beggar, who's the next in the pyramid?
Laborers.
Who?
Laborers.
Okay, laborer is a little bit of a broader sense, right? We call them ultra poor. In Sinhala we call antadugi, ultra poor. So ultra poor means that they're slightly better than beggars, right? Now probably in sociological point of view, beggars might not have a sort of a relationship, like they might not know who's the father, who's the mother sometimes, but when it comes to ultra poor, you can see a structure of a family. There's a family structure, but they are very poor. So people who are in sort of shanties, or people who are moving around, so that sort of people. So they are having, and they have not a house, but a small hut kind of a thing. So we call ultra poor. In Sinhala we call antaduhi. The upper segment of ultra poor is we call laboring poor. So that means that they are the daily wager people. So that they sell their labor, they sell their sort of a physical time and labor, and they will get the money. So now, for example, like people who are daily wager people, or maybe people who are in the estate who are working the tea estates and all of that. So what they say they are doing is they are laboring jobs. But on the other hand, you will also see like we are also selling our labor, but the thing is, now for us, or normally people who are otherwise selling labor, now we have either fixed income or a high income, relatively higher but fixed income. But this daily people who are in the daily wages, so they don't have a fixed income. If they work, they will get money, and if not, they will not get money, right? So that they like that. So after laboring poor, that the situation become bit interesting. So then the upper layer, they are what we call it entrepreneurial poor. Make again a shramika duppatun in Sinhala. This is entrepreneurial or vyavasayaka duppatu. Entrepreneurial poor. What do you mean by entrepreneurial? What is how you understand entrepreneurship is here? What is your understanding of entrepreneurship?
Like street vendors.
Yeah. So what do you mean by entrepreneurial?
They are entrepreneurs. They have skills, but they don't have capital.
Okay, so that's true. So what do you mean by the essence of entrepreneurship? What is the meaning? So,
That's a people who are doing.
What is that?
They are doing their own business to earn.
Yeah. So So now these people, they are basically selling their labor. But entrepreneurial poor is another sort of a segment where you try to do a small business. Actually, why I wanted to now tap here, this is the real microfinance market. This area, right? Who just wanted to, it could be a street vendor, or it could be a small person who's having what do you call that, the small boutique, or maybe who's having some small handukuru kind of a thing. That's a sort of that you are doing some business, you are making something called profit, right? So this is the entrepreneurial poor. So you could see here, so you start with beggar, bottom, and then ultra poor, then you went to laboring poor, then you want to entrepreneurial poor. So that means that you are trying to do any business. But you could see there's one small element or small area in the pyramid. It's not yet filled. What is that? Can anyone guess that? Can anyone guess that? What is that? Who could possibly be more than entrepreneurial poor? Anyone can guess that? Yeah. This one we call enterprising poor. Enterprising poor. So that's a little bit enterprising poor. So this is a little bit higher version of entrepreneurial poor. So what's the difference is based now? Now let's say, for example, let's say fish person. So right, if I'm trying to understand with, give you a basic understanding with the example, small example. So if I am a fisherman, and if I basically go on fishing, in the sense, now let's say there's this big multi-day day boats or something. Let's fire on multi-day boats. So if I am a person, a fisherman, I go to the day boat, night I'm going, and then I'll do my fishing, and then I'll come in the morning, and then I will get some 2,000 or 2,500 rupees. So then I am a laboring poor. Why? Because I am selling my labor, right? If I go to any shop or anything, like, give my labor and prepare something and all of that, so I'm doing a laboring job, and I do something and I get money. If I don't do that, I will not get money. So that is laboring poor. But now let's say the fish example, that I go to the beach or whatever fish market and get some fish, and I have my motorbike or something like that, or maybe my bicycle, and then I go around the village and I sell my fish, then I am entrepreneurial poor. So meaning that I'm not only selling my labor, but I do a bit of a value addition, and for that value addition I am earning money, right? So that means I collect the fish, and then I will maybe once I'm selling, I'm trying to clean it and wrap it on whatever, and then deliver to the doorstep of the people, so that I am entrepreneurial poor, right? So is it something like that? What you do is, now rather than you going and manufacturing, or sorry, not manufacturing, making some kadayapang or something like that, what you are doing is, you from your home, then you prepare that, right, and then you sell it to a street vendor somewhere. Okay, one cow is mecharai, or one vada is mechara, so something like that. So then you are taking a profit out of that. So you are not only tendering your labor there. But then in that context, what is enterprising poor? Enterprising poor is actually doing a even further step ahead if you are doing a small business, right? Now, let's say, for example, I am not taking fish and then going to the areas as a fisherman, but I have a small fish hut, or I have a small thing. So normally we call gruha karma or whatever. So these people, entrepreneurial or enterprising poor, normally Sinhala word it's for vyaparika duppatun. This is vivasayaka duppatun. This is vyaparika duppatun, where they are doing a business, and on the very important thing is they are giving some these opportunities to other people also for the employment. So that's employment opportunity. So this is where the microfinance is start. By looking this, what you have to understand is microfinance is not for beggars, definitely. Maybe not for ultra poor, but microfinance is somewhere here. Target market, right? Microfinance target market. So this is microfinance. Now what we really want to understand is what is SME. So now in this segment, how you would like to place SME? Can can I get some insight from some of you how you want to pitch SME? Where's SMEs now stand for here? Where's SME?
People in these three segments may eventually elevate to an SME level.
Yeah, so where should be these SMEs are located?
Enterprising poor?
More top than to enterprising poor, right? Okay. So now try to understand that, then you have to see the other side of the pyramid. Now this is actually the bottom side or the microfinance side. So that is why I started with microfinance. Now let's start to understand what is SME. Now to understand SME, you have to see the other pyramid. So other pyramid is something like this. You have to please draw this, right? Now here you have a bit of an overlap. This pyramid is actually this is poverty pyramid. Poverty pyramid. And this we call enterprise pyramid. Enterprise pyramid. So the business side of that. So please tell me who are on the top of the pyramid. Who are in the top of the enterprise pyramid? What we call them? Now forget about whole microfinance. Now think on more corporate finance. Who are them?
Shareholders.
Shareholders are right, but when it comes to the business, what sort of a business as we call them?
Limited liability business.
Okay, limited liability, but normally we call them multinational companies, MNCs. MNCs. So MNCs are the bigger most companies. So the same pyramid we are now trying to go in top to bottom. MC. So how to define MNC? How the multinational company can define karani? What's the definition of a MNC? How the MNC can define? Huh?
Doing business more than in one country?
Yeah, not generally one country. If any business entity who are doing business for more than 10 countries. So that is what we call multinational, right? 10 countries we call MNC. Give example for this type of MNCs.
Nestle.
Unilever. Fonterra. Procter and Gamble, and to a certain extent Apple. So those are sort of Coca-Cola, multinational companies. So they are basically widely spread. So they have the business operations for more than 10 countries, right? Then we have a lower of little bit we call international companies. This is a little bit of a lower version of multinational companies. So multinational companies is more than 10 countries, but international companies, you could understand it is more than or 2 to 10 countries, right? If you have the business operations. But don't misunderstand here, let's say the Sri Lanka, let's say Ceylon Biscuit. Ceylon Biscuit exports our biscuit products to 15 countries. Or let's say Link Natural Products export to 15 countries. What is that? Link Samahan or something like that. That does not qualify Link or Ceylon Biscuits as an international company. International company does not mean that you are just doing, you are exporting or you are doing mere business with a country. But what you really want to see is you have business operations in a country. Give one or two Sri Lankan companies like international companies who have operation for more than 2 countries.
Dilmati.
So that
No, Dilma is not they are selling tea for a lot of countries, but they don't have business operations there.
Dabro.
Okay, Damro,
Damro.
yeah, in that case, because Damro has a business operation in, I think, India and all the countries.
Australia.
Yeah, Australia. And what other?
Most of the garment factories, Hydra Money.
Hydra Money,
MS.
Bamboo and all other MS, because
MS.
they have their business operations in like Madagascar, Bangladesh, and all others. So that's correct. That's all. These are international companies. So that's international company definition is you have the business operation. Very important word is business operation in more than 2 countries, right? After international companies, what do you think you have? A little bit longer version. We call large corporates, like Abans and all other large corporates. So they are not at international level, but in Sri Lanka, neither they are not SME. So they are a little bit of larger corporates. After then, you have our niche market, which is our market, medium-sized enterprises, medium, small, and here we call micro. Now, micro enterprises. We will try to understand the definition later on. So this is the enterprise pyramid. This is the poverty pyramid. Now, very, very important point, which as bankers, and particularly the development bankers, and particularly people who are involving in lending to micro, small enterprises, that you have to identify now this part, where it is that there is a segment in the economy, there, of course, they are in the upper segment, upper limit of the poverty pyramid, upper in terms of microfinance, but they are lower in the enterprise pyramid. So now this is very important where you have the overlap, where that the microfinance, so this is the microfinance ladder, the people who would go into the SME sector. So this particular thing we call, and it's a very, very important point here, we call the missing middle. Missing middle. Why you call them missing middle? What is the logic of this? What is the logic of this? The logic of this is, to a certain extent, they are having microfinance characteristics. That means they don't have a proper separation between the business and private entity. They don't have properly keep books of accounts, but a little bit here and there. Most of the time, the owners are the people who are doing the business. So there it's a little bit that business and the individual are more linked. So this is that. So they are, on one hand, they have the microfinance operations or microfinance characteristics, so to say, and on the other hand, you could see that they are having the sort of a business characteristics also. So it is not like a swang rack or but you have a reasonable setup of business. You have few people working in the business. So you could see a reasonable organization of the business. So the why it's missing middle is that sometimes they are neither here nor here. They show the characteristics of here as well as here. So most of the banks, the challenge would be how to tap this segment, because there are a lot of microfinance companies and some finance companies also do microfinance. So that is here in this one. And most of the banks also do finance, and the banks, there should be some here. So normally Sri Lankan banks hardly go to MNCs, but here. So they also don't have much of this detail. So that's what now banks are also trying now, like HNB, like Gamipu Budua and all of that, and then other banks also you have, where you try to tap these people. But tapping this sector would be a little bit different, right? Difficult, because they have characteristics of both micro and as well as corporate. So you as an officer or manager, bank manager, you should have a separate skill set to appraise and lend them. Because the thing is, as my career, I found it's quite relatively easy to lend for these people. Why is that? Why it is easy to? I mean, the difficulty is coming on a different level, but why you consider that the large corporates or the mediums are easy to lend?
They are maintaining proper financials.
Okay.
They have collaterals.
They have collateral, they have finances, so they are quite the thing, and then they have credit worthiness. You can go to the crib, and then you can see the thing. So normally when it's come to the corporate loans, I have no much problem of analyzing the credit worthiness. And then most of, I mean, if you're going the ladder up, and most of the accounts are audited, so you could see the audited accounts, you could see the cash flow, so you could see whether the loan is been granted or not, and then you can see what are the loans, and it has been cross-checked by the crib or whatever. So then it's more or less telling. So you know the numbers are not cooked. So it's relatively easy. But doing business with them is difficult in one hand. Why? What do you really have? What is your cutting on these people?
Pricing.
Pricing, exactly. So the tough would be to negotiate a good loan. So that's a different skill as a banker you should have, because these people are very, very sensitive on the prices. So they're price sensitive. But on the other hand, these people, that you can really make a lot of profit in that sense. But on the other hand, you have to take a different approach, which in the course of the module you will learn some of the things. But unfortunately, I have to tell that everything cannot be taught also. So you have to acquire some of these things and some insights through your experience also. So the experience play a big role here. But then, you know, having this academic or the theoretical knowledge, little bit of perceptions, perspectives would make you very successful here. But do not forget the importance of experience where you have. So this is what you call the middle level. So as a development banker, right? So this is very important sub-message that I would like to give. So you might come with a bank where you work with these people, or sometimes if you have any opportunity to work with these people, if you are into microfinance. What is a prime objective of you is to push these people in the ladder, right? So that is what I would say, like as bankers, you always, when it comes to lending, and particularly when it's come to the development lending, what you have to really understand is that, or what you really have to see is that you play a role of a development banker. So the development banker is that you always think on the development perspective of the whole thing. You also see like the macroeconomic impact of the whole thing, and while you are lending, you are trying to make these people in the upward spiral. So if you are, I mean, for example, in my career for almost 15 years in banking and finance, I am very happy because a lot of people who came here or somewhere, now they are somewhere here. So I have that personal satisfaction with me, because I have given loans for more than 2,000 enterprises in this country, right? And of course, some of them are failed, but the majority, 95% of them are very successful. And then I have that pleasure, okay, by doing my business, that I contributed to this. And then I'm very much pleased in my career where I had some opportunity to work with the microfinance sector also, because this is sometimes close to your heart, like you try to help the people. But unfortunately now with these high interest rates and a lot of these loan sharks being involved in the sector, microfinance sector is becoming a bit of a question sector. So this is what you have to understand when it's come to SME market. So here the problem is not that strong in that sense. Challenge is somewhere else, but here that you have to do. So you have to have a particular skill set to talk to people, to go and identify, appraise the project, and some of it your gut feeling to get a loan, right? So having said that, the microfinance market, let's try to understand now. I hope you have written this. What is the definition of SME? How you define SME? I know if you are a banker, you don't really need to go to these definitions and then do your business, but for academic point of view, you have to define SME. So I think we have shared with you the Sri Lanka's SME Policy Framework, which you can refer. But if you can tell how normally in the country how you define SMEs, like what you can tell, how you define SMEs. How you define SMEs? Can anyone please tell Dylan? Miss Lankani, how many SME can define karani? Mr. Ponnambalam? How you define SME, Mr. Ponnambalam? Any idea? Mr. Prasanna Ratnayaka? How you define SME? අපි SME එකක් කොහොමද අර්ථ දක්වන්නේ? SME එකක් දැන් microfinance කියන එක අපි අර්ථ දක්වන්නේ microfinance කියන්නේ මූල්‍ය මේක නැති අයට මූල්‍ය පහසුකම් ලබා දෙන එක. අපි SME එකක් කොහොමද අර්ථ දක්වන්නේ? Can anybody can try?
Annual turnover less than 750 million.
Turnover level and employees.
Number of employees.
Turnover level, number of employees, and what?
And the capital structure.
Okay, yes, capital structure means assets, right? So SME we define in three main ways. And this is basically the world understanding of that. But what we have to make sure is that this definition is, the parameters are same worldwide, but then the figures could be different, right? So that means sometimes a large corporate in Sri Lanka could be a SME in Germany or SME in USA. Or rather, micro enterprise in USA could be our large or medium enterprises, so something like that. So it's determined by the country's economic development, country's population, and all other. But then, having said that, there are basically three criteria. Even in Sri Lanka, we can define SMEs. So number one is number of employees. This kind of criteria. Another one is annual turnover. Another one is fixed assets or assets. Not fixed assets, so normally the assets. Now, in Sri Lanka, can you please tell what is out of these three parameters, which parameters are we used? If you have that SME policy framework,
Turnover level.
You would be able to answer. Yes?
Turnover level.
Annual turnover.
Annual turnover.
Only turnover?
No, annual turnover and the number of employment.
Exactly. In Sri Lanka, we will take only these two. Number of employees and annual turnover, right? If you have the policy framework, right? So I think last time there was a bit of a question like this, right? So what do you mean by a micro enterprise? The number of employees. Please refer to the book if you have.
Less than 11.
Less than 10, right? Less than 10, we consider that. So any enterprise or any business here, I mean, those are mostly here, right? If the number of employees is less than 10, we consider that micro enterprise. So even if the employee is number 1, so that still can be a micro enterprise. So please try to reconcile with this pyramid. So this is micro. And small, 11 to
50.
11 to 50. If 11 to 50, that particular outfit we call it as a small enterprise, right? Small enterprise, 11 to 50. And medium, we have two definitions. Please remember these things for the exam. Number one is for the manufacturing, and other one is for services. So 51 to
250.
300.
300.
51 to 300.
300.
Manufacturing or services?
Manufacturing 300. Services 200.
Yeah. 200, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So 200. So this is for services. Put S, and 51 to 300. This is for manufacturing, and most it is manufacturing. So that what does it mean in Sri Lanka? If employment, any company having more than 300 employees, they are not considered as SME. So this is our SME market. SME. So like big factories, big government factories, big outfits, big investments. So they are not, if they have more than 300, very generally, right? More than 300 employees, that we don't consider them as SMEs. Or if you put it in the other way around, if their number of employment is less than 300, almost all the enterprises, they are coming under SME, but SME stands here small and medium, but naturally the micro part also will be part of that. So it's MSME, micro, small and medium enterprises. And here, when it's come to employees, what you have to understand is that we are talking about full-time employment. Full-time employment. Right. Then we go to annual turnover. Can anybody tell what is the annual turnover for micro?
Below 50 million.
Are you sure below 50 million? Micro? Where's that the policy framework that you have? Less than how much?
Less than 60 million. 60.
No.
Less than 16 million. 16 or
15
15?
million. 15 million.
15 or 16?
So manufacturing sector
15 million.
less than 15 million and service sector less than 10 million.
Okay. Okay. Where is that? That's in the policy framework? Policy framework, I don't think you have manufacturing versus services in terms of turnover, right? It's only the segregation is on the number of employees, because normally the manufacturing, the employees are high. I think micro enterprises, if I'm not mistaken, please check that. Less than
15 million.
10 million or 15 million?
It's 15 million.
15 million. 15.
15 million, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so any enterprise which is having less than 15 million annual turnover, we consider that as a micro enterprise. And the small enterprise, 16 to mega 15 or mega 16 to
750.
250.
So 250 million. Yes. And then medium, 251 to
750.
750.
750.
750 million. So this is according to Sri Lanka. So this is the situation when it's come to annual turnover. So if any company's annual turnover is less than 15, so it's a micro. If it is 16 to 250, is a small. 251 to 750, it is medium. And now I will ask a very important question. Now let's say the company's annual turnover is 14 million. 14 million, and company has 30 employees. is this a small company or a micro company?
Micro.
Why is that?
Turnover is primary criteria.
Huh? Is this a small company or a...
It's a small company because.
So if you go on turnover basis, it is a micro. Because less than 40, less than 50. But it is 30 if you go on a employment basis, it is small. So you have a contradictory here. So what the policy says in that sense?
Turnover is a primary criteria.
What we should give the priority, turnover or the employee?
Turnover.
Employment.
No. Number of employees supersede the turnover.
Exactly. So please make a very important note. So if there would be any contradictory, number of employment should give the priority, get the priority. Now I will ask a very important question. Why is that? Why such a provision is there? The provision is there because not because of anything, because we know and you know as bankers, most of the SMEs, they manipulate the profits. They manipulate the turnover or they report the less turnover. So sometimes your turnover and the profits would be high, right? But of course, this is not profit, this is turnover. Turnover would be high, but you report due to whatever reason, you report a lower turnover. So in that context, by going the manipulatable, I mean, you cannot say no to all these figures have to be audited because definitely, you know, these guys are not having audited account, and some of them are nearly don't have books of accounts. Maybe here it's fine. So because of that if you try to analyze that based on the turnover, it is a bit of an issue because mostly the turnover is manipulatable. But on the other hand, when it's come to number of employees, and if you have a full-time employees, still there's a room to manipulate, but it is relatively difficult. Now, actually, this I think in 2015 or 16, around somewhere 15, so almost 5 years ago, this discussion arose, right? This discussion arose whether where we had this economic census. Now, when in economic census that we had, I mean, I was also part of that whole advisory group there, that we had a situation where we want to get a count of enterprises in the country. So, you know, normal population census is of the population, but economic census is economic, you know, the enterprises, right? If you, the latest economic census we did in 2015, if you see Department of Census and Statistics, you can go and read that report, right? So where we have identified approximately 1 million enterprises, small, medium enterprises in the country, right? So what Department of Census and Statistics they told is that if you really try to define SME based on this, it would be very difficult because it's very difficult to, you know, look at the books and all other. But if you really based number of employment or number of employees, it would be easy for the Department of Census and Statistics to make the call, because then you can, you know, count the people and do so. That is because of the statistical easiness, because of the statistical feasibility that you have given this. But having said that, some people argue it's a wrong decision. I am not telling here right or wrong, because what really wants is the turnover, because based on the turnover that you can see really the economic impact of the company. So it's a two arguments back and forth, right? So maybe in the exam sometimes you would also ask a question like a creative higher order thinking skills question, like out of these two, like what do you think the best? So on one hand, number of employments is good because it's easy to calculate, it's easy to see. But what's the disadvantages of having number of employees as a basic main parameter? What's the disadvantage? Can anybody tell what's the disadvantage? Because sometimes it would be difficult for us to distinguish whether they are sort of a what do you call them, whether it is full-time employees or the part-time employees. So that's also, so even though we said full-time, and there are some of the businesses, the seasonal businesses. So that is the other thing, right? Okay, coming back to the other point, and then we'll take a short break, and then we'll continue. Yeah.
What if the other side of this happens? Turnover, let's say turnover is 20 million and the number of employees less than 10. So will it be considered as a small again or the micro?
Less if the employees is no, so that's the thing. Employees is superseding everything. So in that context, now let's say that's an, I mean, I know there's a bit of anomaly now. Let's say if there would be a company which is a software vendor, software development company, and now all these young people, young guys who are doing the softwares and all others. So it's a 2 or 5 member company, but maybe their turnover is somewhere around 200 million. Right, 250 million. So, but still that is considered as what? Micro. Because number of employees are 2. That's the thing. So I know there's nothing right or wrong, but I mean, I also to a certain extent would like to go with that, because the thing is, because if you really try to determine the definition based on the annual turnover, even though we say annual turnover is good, but still we are having a lot of manipulation could be happening. Right. Assets. Now in Sri Lanka, we don't have assets, but normally in internationally it is assets. Normally we call excluding land and building. Assets excluding land and building. So normally we are talking about the working capital level of the business. And in each country that you have a parameters or different benchmarks, but in Sri Lanka we don't have, and that is again why we did not want to go, which I also personally agree, because by going another type of definition, we will further complicate the definition. That is number one. And second one is assets are again depending on the accounts and depending on the way that you are valuing it, or asset valuation. Sometimes asset value would be less or those are, and on the other hand, because at least the turnover is there, because most companies, at least for taxation or something, they will have maintain something. I'm talking about a little bit higher people, right? Not at a micro level. But when it's come to the asset, like who really do the valuation? Now, let's say if I have the stocks, I will tell this is the amount, and who really verifies that? So there's a lot of issues when it comes to asset verification. So that is why in Sri Lanka that we don't go in. I mean, but on the other hand, as if asset could be verified and asset could be properly booked, and if assets could be properly divulged, documented, then it would be really a good thing. So that is what in Sri Lanka that we are having only these 2 parameters. So that is where we have to define. So again, for a formal lending, that you don't have to really know like this definition, but it is important that you learn this, because it would be good for our activities in future. All right, so the next topic, which we will take at 2 o'clock, we'll take a 20 minutes break, right? And we'll take up that other discussion where we try to understand the impact of SME to the economy, right? Which is quite an easy topic. impact of SME to the economy, and then we start at we started at 3 o'clock, right? Api ilaga session එක පටන් ගමු. මේකේ තියෙන්නේ impact of SME to the economy. Right. දැන් අපි SME එකක් ගත්තොත් SME අපි sector එකක් as a whole sector එකක් විදිහට ගත්තොත් මේ SME එකේ තියෙන impact එක මොකක්ද economy එකට? අපි කොහොමද මේක analyze කරන්නේ? So why on the other hand why we consider SMEs as backbone of the economy? How you try to answer that? අපිට එක්කෙනෙක් කවුරු හරි කියන්න බලන්න. රොෂාන් සමරනායක, what do you think, Roshan? ඇයි අපි SME sector එක වටින්නේ ඇයි economy එකට? Somebody, Roshan or somebody else?
It gives more contribution to the GDP.
How SME would give more contribution to the GDP?
Because majority of the enterprises consist of SMEs in Sri Lanka.
Okay. I'm getting your point, but then how you put it in a little bit of much more palatable way? GDP contribution, it's a big thing, no?
So it helps to poverty reduction through employment generation.
Okay, very good. First one is it's that the SMEs collectively or as a group are the largest employment provider in the country, right? So the අපේ රටේ මේක එහෙම වෙලා නැහැ, because as I told who is the main employment provider in Sri Lanka?
Government.
So the main employment provider in Sri Lanka is the Sri Lankan government. So that is the prashne. So that is the main problem. So our main employment provider is the state, but theoretically the main employment provider should be the SMEs or the private sector, that sector that which we discuss from here to that level in the economy. So that is the main employment provider. So so please try as an aggregate level, they are the main person. The sector is the main employment provider, which of course has a lot of ramification, as some of you said, the poverty reduction to the economic development or increasing GDP per capita to whatnot and all, right? Okay. Second one is resource mobilizer. Resource mobilizer. So SME as a sector is considered as one of the main resource mobilizer. What do you mean by resource mobilizing? What do you mean by resource mobilizing? That they mobilize a lot of resources in the economy to and produce some economic good, right? Now let's say, for example, like cinnamon, so that you have the cinnamon and you take it and you process and you add value, and then you mobilize that resources and you do. Or maybe let's say furniture, so that you have timber and all others, so you mobilize that resource and you produce economic good. So the SME sector නැත්තම් මේ resource mobilization එක කරන්නේ. ඒක දෙවැනි point. තුන, why it is important to a government? Why it is important to a government other than
Taxpayer.
Very, very important point. Yes, as a collectively SMEs are collectively the largest
Taxpayer.
the group taxpayer to the government. The Lanka make a issue because of a taxation system make a hinda, but normally SMEs are the largest or the biggest taxpayer, and then of the economy. And what else? So they are the highest employment provider, the largest resource mobilizer, highest taxpayer. Tax එකත් එක්කම තව මොකක්ද දෙන්නේ? මොනවා earn කෙනෙක්ද? SME can be a largest forex earner in economy. මේ foreign exchange earning එක මොකක්ද මේ අපිට බලපාන්නේ කොහොමද ඉස්සරහට? ඒ කියන්නේ forex earning වලින් අපි මොකක්ද වෙන්නේ? මොකක්ද රටට වෙන benefit එක?
To decide on the exchange rates to maintain the rupee value.
Yes, so forex earner, and the other one is it leads to a balance of payment and stabilizing of the currency. Forex ඊට පස්සේ තව මොකක්ද?
SMEs is spread all over the country, so it helps to regional development.
Okay, very good. Okay, I would say balance regional growth to enhance the balance regional growth. Balance regional growth. And this will in turn are helping the inclusiveness of the economy. What do you mean by inclusiveness? Inclusive කියන word එකේ තේරුම මොකක්ද? Inclusive කියන වචනේ තේරුම මොකක්ද? What do you mean by inclusive? Inclusive means that everybody are part of the whole economic journey, right? Inclusive. So like sometimes women-led SMEs sit here, so integration of women, integration of other people, either they can be working in SMEs or employed, or maybe they themselves can be employees also, right? Right. So that's the balanced regional growth. Another one is that SMEs could be a sort of a net value adder. Now, මේ දෙක පොඩ්ඩක් සමානයි, සමාන වුණාට මේක ටිකක් දෙකක්. So SME can do a lot of value addition. Now let's say, for example, imagine if we have let's say dairy industry. So then from the normally the raw milk, we then go through the value chains and then do the value adder. So in the country, which is contribution into the GDP is also this value addition process, right? And value adder in that sense. Another one is this would be a cradle. What do you mean by cradle? Cradle කියන වචනේ තේරුම මොකක්ද? Cradle can ළමයි නලවන එක තොටිල්ල. Cradle for large corporates. Large corporates, right? Because no corporate just emerge as large, right? So I mean 99.9% corporates are emerge as sort of from SME, so from small micro. Now let's say, I mean, not in Sri Lanka, but let's say Microsoft, let's say Apple and all others. So they started as garage, so small micro enterprises. Now see where they are developed. Tesla, right? And in Sri Lanka, අපි දන්නවා Damro, ඒතකොට දාස ඉස්සර දාස මුදලාලි and all Siddhale Hettigoda, right? All things, all of them started small. Jet Twins started small. Diploma Stasans, Harijavardhan, how he start, Dhammika Pera, how he start. Come credible for the large company. If any country, if you need to have a bigger companies, larger companies who contribute to the economy, contribute to the GDP, contribute to the employment creation at a different level, started with SME. Right? Another one, it could be, I would say, innovation hotbed. Innovation hotbed. Hotbed meaning that innovation are stemming from there. So normally innovations and everything should stem from SME. So because of all these reasons, that's why we said that SME play a vital role. SME play a vital role in economic development, right? So if there would be some small question asked at the exam, give the contribution or the impact to the SME, so that SME then this is the answer that you have to give, right? So SMEs are the things. Any questions or any comment on this?
So I didn't get that innovation part.
What is that?
That innovation part in SME.
Yeah. No, innovation in that sense, what you have to make sure is that because SME, now let's say, now innovations can happen different levels. But here SMEs can be an innovation hotbed, means that small SMEs, small enterprises, they could innovate a lot of things. Now let's say, for example, okay, how to extract moringa oil or something like that, right? And then they produce a new product, and then of course then that product can be further developed. Now good example is now when it's come to Diploma. So before Diploma becoming big company, Diploma was one of the companies that who really tried on different innovative teas, and they started as a small company, and that innovation has groomed them to a bigger company. You getting my point, right? So
yes, sir.
So රටේ innovation එක නවෝත්පාදනය ඇති කරන්න, innovation එක promote කරන්න රටට SME සෑහෙන role එකක් කරනවා. Right. මෙන්න මේ ටික තමයි එතකොට SME එකේ impact එක. So that is why that as a country we should basically focus on developing this sector, because having imagine if you have a robust SME sector, it could be a strong employment provider. So government අපේ රටවල් මේ SME එකේ ඒ හරිම impact එක දැකලා නැති නිසා තමයි මේකට හරියට මේ sectors වලට support කරන්නේ නැත්තේ. And even though we have the policy framework, අපි තව චුට්ටකින් කතා කරලා policy framework එක ගැන, policy framework තිබුණාට මේක හරියට කරනවා නම් you see, I mean the government does not want to make the employment for the people, because SME sector will take care of that. Not the big, I mean most the countries, not the big corporates, 1 or 2, 3 maximum you have. They are not the people that who should provide employment opportunities. SMEs, and especially as you said, when it comes to this inclusion part also. So the women, because the thing is, it's very difficult that you otherwise you have the urbanization, issues and they mobilize, and especially the taxpayer. So government doesn't really want to be too much worried, because government's continuous income-based taxation, we discussed that, progressive taxation coming from SMEs. So you don't have to really worry on that. And then you do that. And then of course, if it is export oriented, I mean, and most countries, most SMEs, at least 75% of SMEs are export oriented. So if they're export oriented, other one is it's a foreign exchange. So you don't really want to depend on the labor force or the for people who are employed in other countries, and then having this mere slavery job and send money, right? So you can get the good thing, and then to that all the resource mobilization is the value addition, net value addition. So you can get more income, right? Inclusiveness, And then very important thing, SMEs, SME sector focus for foster it's very difficult that we will get a large corporates. If you see like Damros, Abans, Laughs, Jet Twins, they were one day or another SMEs. Other Median SMEs, if we really groom them and support them, they will become large corporates, and they would be then further will be able to give more benefit to the country. So that is what the role of SME in economic development. So that is why, as a country, as a nation, that we have to focus very strongly on SME and SME market, right? So there's any question on this before we go to the other topic, the policy measures? Any other question? Right, okay, so then we'll write the next topic. SME Policy Framework. SME Policy Framework. So if you have, just give me a minute. All right, SME Policy Framework. So in policy framework that you can see, Sri Lankan government take few measures, I think 5 or 6 measures that they will focus on SME sector. Please refer to the document and tell what are the areas that the government would work on. What is the first one? That there's a diagram you could see. What's the first one? Can any of you refer that? Mr. Prasanna, are you there? Who's there here?
Enabling environment.
Yeah. First one is to create enabling or business enabling environment. We will discuss what you mean by that. Second one?
Technology and innovation.
Second very important thing is we call, I mean, I'm giving, I'm going on a different sort of access to finance. Other one? You know, what do you call?
Technology and innovation.
Technology or access to technology and innovation. Another one?
Entrepreneurial and culture and skill development.
Entrepreneurship and skills. Other one?
Market facilitation.
Market access. There's another one, right?
Research and development.
R&D. Okay. Yeah. So in Sri Lankan SME policy framework, what the government should do is to support the SME sector in these lines. You know, first one is to create enabling environment, to have access to finance, access to technology and innovation, develop entrepreneurial skills, and have market access, to create market access, and to have research and development. So by doing all, what is the vision of the statement? What sort of a SMEs we want? To create what? Globally competitive SMEs. So by doing all these, what we are trying to do is to develop a globally competitive SMEs. And you could see there is some cost cutting. There are some other things. What is that? The cross cutting. What is that? There are two something like that. What is that?
Regional balance.
Yeah, that means balance, regional growth. So that means by doing this, we have to achieve the balanced regional growth. So that we don't want Colombo to be so developed where the Jaffna or any other regions less developed. So then the disparity is increasing. So what we want is a balance. Okay, Colombo can be much more higher and faster developed, but then Jaffna, Gaul, Bonroy, and all of the areas should follow that. So then only that you have the minimum gap, right? All right. So then you do this, and then this is balanced regional growth. So that means that you have the regional balance. Another one what we have, resource. What it says there, resource
mobilizer.
No, resource efficiency, right?
Efficiency.
Resource efficiency. Right. I will give 2 minutes. If anyone do not have this sort of a diagram, can you please draw this? All right. Again, try to draw this. Enabling environment, access to finance, access to technology, innovation, access to finance. Important especially when it's come to the SME Finance, access to technology, and then entrepreneurship, skills development, market access, R&D, and all of that. Right. Now let's try to understand what you mean by enabling environment. Now, business enabling environment. So that is very important thing in what government should do, right? To create a enabling or business enabling environment for businesses to grow. අපි සිංහලෙන් කියන්නේ එකක් තමයි රජය කරන්න ඕනේ බිස්නස් වලට එහෙම නැත්නම් SME බිස්නස් වලට පහසුකාරක environment එකක් business enabling environment එකක් ඇති කරන එක. So please tell me, if government or the state wanted to do this, what sort of things that you think we should do, or the government you should do? Give one or two suggestions from your side.
Infrastructure facilities such as road development, electricity.
Very good. First one, so enabling environment, right? This topic. Infrastructure. infrastructure and utilities, I would say. Very good point. Utilities. Development. And what are those infrastructure? Who's our Mr. What's your name again?
Upul.
What are the infrastructure?
Electricity, transport.
I would say first one, let's say transportation. Excuse me. Sorry. First one is infrastructure, transportation. So transportation is either, you know, the road network, the train, or the bus. So that means that you have to make sure that the ability to transport, ability to get the raw material, and then ability to export, so transportation. So it could be again national and international. Right? The first one is the infrastructure, transportation infrastructure, national and international. Then what's other infrastructure?
Providing skill development opportunities for the laborers.
We'll come back to that. But infrastructure, other than the transportation, what sort of other infrastructure you need? You just said
electricity.
I would say yes, power. Availability of power, that means electricity mainly, right? And other utilities, that's such as telecommunication, water, and all. Power, I would say differently because it's very important. Okay, so first thing is to provide the basic physical infrastructure facility to do that, to do business. So that is number one. Number two, what government should do to create an enabling environment?
Tax benefits. Tax benefits.
Okay, so I would say not benefit, but how
concessions actually. Tax concessions.
Okay, don't tell about concessions and all other, but because at the end of the day, SME government should pay taxes, and that is very important.
Progressive tax schemes.
What is that?
Progressive tax schemes.
Very good. So that means simple, have simple, progressive tax system. Progressive taxes. So in exam also don't mention that you give tax benefits or tax rebates. So actually, what we don't need a tax benefit, but what we want to do is a simple, put here if you like, transparent and progressive taxation tax system. So that means if you earn this amount of profit, this is how you are being taxed, and it is simple and it is transparent. And if you are having this and all of that, and on the other hand, one of the other element of progressive taxation is, now let's say if you spend actually that's also there currently also, if you are spending any amount for research and development, that is tax allowable. So that means that means that you don't that you can deduct that expenses, and you can reduce your tax amount. And let's say if you are doing some social work, some charity, so that's why some companies are willing to do some charity, because such initiatives are tax exempted. So those expenses, so then you can reduce your profit by spending to those things, and by reduction of profits you can skip this tax slab and then make your tax relatively lower. So don't put like tax rebates or tax benefits or tax reduction. That is actually not really we want. We want a transparent system and the progressive and equitable system, right? That is simple and progressive taxation, right? What is other very important element?
Skill development opportunities for human labor.
Okay, skill development, we will come on entrepreneurship and here, but when it's come to the main wise,
education,
favorable laws and regulations.
Laws and regulation, exactly. Laws and regulation. Here, very important thing, not only for business, very important for any country, is rule of law. Rule of law. What do you mean by rule of law? How do you understand rule of law here? rule of law කියන එක අපි කොහොමද තේරුම් ගන්නේ? Understand කරගන්නේ. Rule of law, that means the law is above. Law is above all, and then law is equal, right? And what are the other favorable laws? Like let's say patent law. The patent law is favorable because if you favorable if you really want to get a patent, you have to wait until 2 to 3 years. So if you are 2 to 3 years, you are saying sometimes you have been fed up of getting the law, and then you forget it and all that. But in most of the developed countries, within 2 to 3 weeks. What do you mean by patent? By the way, anyone who knows that, please tell me. Tell to the entire class what do you mean by patent?
For the innovation, their own something you invent. He is the owner of that innovation.
Yeah, so that means that your initial original idea, your thought is being patented. Your original thought being patented, and then you have the benefit of having that thing. So patent law is very, very important to have innovation. Because the thing is, why I should be innovative if I know if I know that there's no recognition for my innovation, if I know that I will not get any additional benefit or additional plus of that innovation. So that's why in countries that we are not innovative. But countries, in our country now, countries who are innovative, you could see that their patent laws and the regulations are very, very strong. So those are the things when it's come to among other things. All these are part of that. But enabling environment, another very important thing is here. I would say effective administrative structure. Create effective administrative structure, admin structure. Meaning, now for example, if any company like wants to go and they want to register for business, like how many days and how many times that you have to go, and whether you are harassed. If you want to register for taxation, to tax benefit activities, how easy or how difficult it would be. If you want to export, you want to get export license, how from EDB or Department of Commerce, or I don't know where it gives, right? So actually it's EDB. So then to get that, if you want to get cinnamon or whatever to be export, that there's something called certificate of origin. So that means or tea that you claim that is Ceylon tea or Ceylon cinnamon. So to get this other things, or maybe if you simply want to go and get a sort of a quality certificate for SLSI or ISO. So the problem here is most of these government organizations are there, but they are not really SME friendly. That is one of my professional tasks during last 2 years to make sure, because I have done a research on that, it's to study the institutional structure with this. That's a huge research we did with E&Y. If possible, I will share that information. That document is a very lengthy document that you could see in Sri Lanka that these institutional structures are not really supporting SMEs. Now, in fact, they are really having their own competition. Now, in rural areas that you also know, not rural, even in Colombo, but suburb, that you have something called Industrial Development Board. So theoretically, Industrial Development Board should give this technology transfer to SMEs. And there is some organization called NEDA. Have you heard this organization, NEDA? National Enterprise Development Authority. So their responsibility is to again give advisory services and all that. Because the thing is, we banks, we can only give finance. It's very difficult as bankers, we can provide all the other. But other services had to accommodate or to have a synergy with the finance. And then there's another DS level organizations, I don't know whether you know, it's called Vidata centers. So theoretically, Vidata centers are supposed to give some technology. Now let's say in SME they want to in cashews, they want to know how you basically dry cashews or bake cashews. So then that even a small level of technology, or maybe like drying something, or maybe how to create a desiccated coconut, and how to manufacture virgin coconut oil. So that sort of a thing. So that is what we have to really understand, right, to get it things. So effective. So government's very important role is to create this effective environment for the businesses. Anything else before we go to access to finance? Before we go to access to finance, anything else? Okay, now our next topic, and in fact, it's a very detailed topic. Here, I will just erase this. Access to finance. And as bankers, this is one of the things that we have to really think and consider when it comes to our work. Now, as bankers, I will ask this question from you. When it comes to SMEs, what is this access to finance meaning? Why this is a problem? Why this is a problem? Why this access to finance is so huge? Meaning, now there are this problem is two types. On one hand, our SMEs don't know, or I'm telling on the small and micro levels, right? They don't know how to actually present themselves to a bank, right? So that is a huge problem that they have, right? So because the thing is, they are not having their own books of accounts, and they have a lot of these other issues and all of this. So one of the things that I realize is that most SMEs, they don't know how to present themselves to a bank. Now, normally the senior bankers, you know, the lending is two types. One is collateral based lending, and what is the other one?
Cash
flow, right? So when it's come to more SMEs, we should go for more cash flow based lending. What do you mean by cash flow based lending?
Future cash.
We assess the cash flow, and then we try to gauge our DSCR, debt service cover ratio, something like that, you know, to lend. But the problem is, and as bankers, you know, most of these SMEs, they cannot properly establish themselves with a proper cash flow. Either they don't have the capacity, or they don't want to show it due to whatever reason, they are scared, or sometimes even they don't know about the business. So that's the whole thing. So when it's come to that, if you try to diagrammatically understand this situation, here this is bank, and there's this SME. So you always can see there is a gap of information between these two organizations. Meaning, as bank, we don't know about all the details of SME. Like what would be their experience, what would be their cost structure, how would be their other investment, or whether they have other liabilities and all of that. If this would be a corporate, we might be able to get more information because most information are available. And if it is a listed company, we would be able to get even more information because that information also will be available, right? But here, we don't get that information that much because they don't have proper books of accounts, and there's a little bit of less verification. And unless otherwise, our bank officers like you, either with good experience or like acquire some knowledge of or the skill like in this course, or maybe credit management, credit evaluation skills, or maybe you have undergone with number of trainings. Otherwise, unless otherwise, it would be very difficult for us to assess this. So this is we call the information gap. Information gap. Or other word, we call that asymmetry of information. Information gap or the asymmetry of information. Right? Asymmetry of information means again, like the bank does not know on much of the detail of the SME. And the situation is similar on the other side also, where the SME don't know or doesn't know much of the information of the bank. So like how you have to understand that situation is information in terms of like SME doesn't know, okay, what is the best credit product that I should have? Okay, what would be the best, I mean, whether bank has said, okay, that you are getting this loan, whether I am getting a best loan out of that deal, or whether I am in a good sort of a condition there, what sort of a security that it's better for me to keep. So all these stuff as SMEs that don't understand. So you can see in access to finance arena that there is a gap between the financial institute and SME. Now, if you have this gap, according to economics, if you have this information gap, normally we call asymmetry of information. So if you have asymmetry of information, normally it says that you will face two problems. Asymmetry of information, you will have to face for two problems. One problem we call adverse selection. In Sinhala අපි කියනවා වැරදි තෝරා ගැනීම කියලා. Adverse selection. And the other problem we call moral hazard. Right? So now what I'm trying to tell is because the access to finance, this is the issue, because SMEs we don't know, banks, we don't know how to appraise SME properly. We don't have that skill set to assess the cash flows. Sometimes SMEs also not producing correct information. Sometimes SMEs do not tell the correct information. So we have a further problem on that. And we are having all these issues where then we are having huge problem because we don't know about the situation. And on the other hand, from the SME side, SME also don't know about much of the details of the bank. SMEs do not know how to negotiate. SMEs doesn't know how to pitch their problem, and as a result, we have this issue. So adverse selection means again two types. Please remember this very well. This is very important for any bank. One of these would be we call not giving a loan to a good customer. Not giving a loan to a good customer. Because you don't know about this person. So maybe this SME could have highly potential SME, but unfortunately that you don't know that. So then you thought that you will it will be he or she or that SME will not perform and you will not give a loan. So that is one aspect of that, right? Not giving a loan. On the other hand, when it's come to our credit risk, very important point we have is we are having an issue is giving a good loan to a bad customer. Giving a good loan to a bad customer, bad SME. This is the most dangerous situation where you have the credit risk involved. You thought SME is good. but due to whatever, and sometimes they presented it that you believed and you did not verify, you did not cross-check that, and then you realized that whatever that you appraise is bullshit, that they are not performing well, right? So that's the thing. So that is, you are giving a good loan to a bad customer. So this is we call adverse selection. So what I want to tell is adverse selection has two ways: either not giving a loan to a good customer, that is one thing, or second one is giving a good loan to a bad customer. So this is adverse selection. Can anybody tell me what is moral hazard is? This is a bit of academic word, but what does it mean? Moral hazard. Mr. Charit, any idea of a moral hazard? What do you mean by moral hazard?
Actually, I don't know the real meaning. I feel that gut feeling.
Yeah, moral hazard is a problem, Charit. What do you mean? Anyone can think of this? What is this moral hazard is all about? So normally adverse selection happen before you give in the loan, or rather that means that either you give a loan, you do a wrong selection and then you give. Moral hazard is something that happens once you give the loan. So that means very simply like this. Now, if you really don't know much of the detail of SME, what you can end up with is that you give a good loan, but then that no sooner that you have given the loan, you realized you don't know what the SME would do, right? So you have given a loan where the SME doesn't know what, I mean, you don't know what SME use. So sometimes if that loan being used to, I don't know, I mean, now loan being asked to for the working capital, but sometimes that loan, and I mean, most of the instances it's bad financing, that the loan has been going to maybe purchase a vehicle, or maybe for some other expenditure which is not really meant to be. So moral hazard means that the mental, not an agony, but mental unrest that you have, that the loan being used for the purpose it was meant, right? So that is moral. So please write there, moral hazard is a mental situation which describes when the bank is in a emotional unrest, or banker or a bank is in emotional unrest, whether the facility being used for the purpose that it was meant. So this is actually a universal problem in lending, not necessarily for SME. This information gap is a universal problem. So you as a banker, you want to assess the SME and you don't know much of the information. SME also same. So as a result, this. So if you really see most of your non-performing loans, it's because of this. Of course, there could be genuine reasons like maybe COVID or whatever, East attacks and all other. I don't discount that, but majority of the issues is this, that you don't know that happened, that most of the loans have been bad because you don't know this problem. So now, if you want to eliminate this access to finance problem, what we should do? Mr. Kumar Kanagaratna, what you should do if you want to eliminate this?
We should, we should refer their financial accounts and bank statements.
But sorry, the problem is financial accounts not there, no? If financial accounts would be readily available, readily there, so then simply we don't have this issue. Why we have this issue is because we don't have financial information.
Inspection, business place inspection.
Business place inspection, or other. Yes, so those are some of the tools. But what I wanted to tell is that if you really want to eliminate this, I mean, you cannot eliminate this problem. Information gap you cannot 100% fill, right? But what you can do is, with a reasonable deliberation, you can make this gap narrower. Earlier it's this, it's like this. So what I want to tell is that how we do this in two ways. One thing that we are doing right now, right, with these courses and the learning, the skills as bankers. In future, when it's come to credit appraisal, credit evaluation, and some of you might be using this already, that you acquire new skill sets, you acquire new skills, you will acquire new methodologies, how to appraise SMEs. Basically getting this information, talking to them, ticking of these things, and to come up, I mean, you guys doing this, come up with a small balance sheet, come up with a the small P&L, and then if they give, which we will discuss that later a little bit in a later session, not now. Normally we call what is that mean? The cross-checking, right? So if you see the balance sheet, see the P&L, you study it, you go to somebody's just said, you go to the business premises, and then you see whether that activities or what is mentioned is correct. I mean, especially this asset to the inventory check, turnover to the inventory check, network to the physical asset verification. So there are a number of ways, debtors verification, and all of which you can see now with all these skills that you are learning something where you can use to reduce this. That is number one. So this is one part. But on the other hand, as SME policy says, government or the private entities, and even that is actually one of your banks, that's what I am advising a lot of banks, to put some of the CSR money to do this financial literacy to SMEs, at least to teach SMEs on proper business plan development, how to keep books, the concept of interest rate, the concepts of effective interest rates, and all of this. So while we are doing this, both activities, what we could see is that this gap would become narrower. And once this gap would become narrower, that is the only possible solution, sustainable solution that you can do to minimize this problem with moral hazard and adverse selection. So it is a very, very important point that you have to understand. Any question of this? Who in your banks do this client engagement or are the client training or something like that? No bank is involving in that?
I think central bank, they have financial literacy programs.
Okay.
We are every year we are conducting this program for our customers.
Mr. Kumar, where are you from?
I am at National Bank Maharagam branch.
All right, so you do that. So it's very, very important that you also should, I mean, everybody should do, because I mean, it's again empowering of your customers also, and particularly that micro to small, not a bigger ones, but micro to small. So since central bank is coming, and central bank is, I think it's doing relatively free of charge, right? So if you can do some sessions, some educate, because the thing is, as a bank, that you as a branch, you also have to make sure that your clientele also develop with you, right? And then that would be a very nice, as Mr. Kumara said, very nice sort of additional support that you can give. All right, access to finance. Of course, I will finish within now next 5 minutes. Today, I want to sign off early because there are some other things, and then of course we'll take up. And with this, we will finish this session, and then from next week onward, that you will have the credit appraisal, and hopefully after 1 month, I will be coming back. I will give some opportunity to ask questions. So this access to finance is the most important thing. Other things I don't want to go into much details because it's quite explicit. So please read the policy framework and read some specific sort of a points that is being mentioned. Access to technology, again, the whole point is like, again, there are technology service providers in the country, particularly in Sri Lanka, like IDB, ITI, National, what do you call a NERD Center, National Engineering Research Center and all other. But unfortunately, to reach of these services to SMEs is the problem. So what I would like that you in practically, like as Mr. Kumara said, if you can, as bankers or the bank managers, take some initiative to arrange some of these sessions. If you talk to IDB or if you talk to these people, sometimes they would come. I mean, normally the government institutions, they are not proactive anyway, but they will not charge most of the time. So if you can arrange that sort of a session to them and come to our SMEs and make sure that our SMEs is empowered, that would be good. And for example, like if you have somebody like, like this, what do you call horticulture, or maybe some mushroom cultivation, that's sort of a small people, or micro to small enterprises. So if you can cluster them, gather them, and provide that 1 or 2 training on those things, 1 or 2 training on bookkeeping, 1 or 2 training on how proper financial management, that sort of things, that would be really, really good. So of course, other one is the skills development. Skills development is, I mean, we cannot do individually. So that is, again, government has to make sure. So government has to work on that. So to do that and all other. So and that is again one thing. And which is very much lacking in Sri Lanka is R&D, research and development. The problem is, as I've been telling, is that since the governments are using the money for a lot of unwanted stuff, the wanted stuff, when it's come to the real research and development, we are basically neglecting that. So with that, that's a problem. So if there would be any small question, maybe not a full-fledged question, but small question comes as, okay, please draw the elements of entrepreneurship policy and then give some salient features or the activities that you could do in each feature or each element. So then I think by reading the book or reading that, I mean, you don't have to really remember everything, but at least remember that diagram, remember this main problem, which is information asymmetry and access to finance, which is our problem as bankers, and then you would be able to do that. So I think with that, I am done for today. For the previous ones and all other, do you have any questions? Now we can take around 5 minutes to clarify any question you have, and then we finalize our first sort of a module where we took a reasonable effort to understand about economy, economic concepts, the monetary policy, fiscal policy, and today we were more focused on the role of SMEs. I mean, role of SMEs is not a very big thing. I mean, it's a small thing and you would understand. And then now from next week onwards, you will be really going to more other stuff in credit appraisals and then market and the risk and all other, which we will do, and in portfolio risk and all other, which we will do, right? Any questions? Yeah? No question? Dilshan?
No, sir, but I can you please give the definition for moral hazard? Because it's little bit speedy at that time.
Okay, moral hazard is a mental situation where the bank face, where bank or banker doesn't know the use of the funds. Again, pick up the loan, right? Use of the funds are deployed to the optimum use. The use of the funds or the investment of the fund or investment of the loan are being done to the optimum level. So that means, very simply means, Dilshan, whether that I mean, you always has a problem whether this man will invest this for this particular activity or whether he would invest in something else. So that's mental agony or mental situation we call moral hazard. You got it?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. So then we will adjourn the class today. It's quite today a little bit early, right? And then we will take. So please study everything. And then if you have any questions, I will be coming again after 1 month's time. So then we will be able to discuss. Sometimes if you have any questions, please make a note on that, and then we'll take it from there, right? If you don't have any questions, we can stop the class now.
Sir, will you be able to give your WhatsApp or Viber number? Is there anything, if we clarify, we can, is it all right to ask you?
Yeah, that's fine. So my number is not 773 451 442. I'm in WhatsApp here. My normal number is there. I don't have multiple numbers. So if you can just text, if you need, text me. Sometimes I might be not responsive to the calls immediately because now itself I'm getting a lot of calls. But unless it's otherwise urgent, I'm not picking up. But you can always ask any question. Don't worry. And I'm Hasita Sundara. You can link me through LinkedIn. Of course, Facebook is not that much, but LinkedIn I'm there. So please link and then just make a small note that you are from this class, right? So then we can be a network there also.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
All right. So then we will stop and then take care, and then we will meet after 1 month's time, right? Okay.